I'm Mike Sullivan, and this is our second video to help seniors gain more distance off the tee with their driver. Today we're going to show you how you can make a better shoulder turn and increase the length of your backswing. So last time we did a video about how to increase your driver distance for a senior golfer. And we talked about grip pressure, and we talked about creating some centrifugal force and really getting that club swinging. And we talked about the analogy of a whip, right? And by the way, I said in that video, and by the way, I'll also hopefully remember to put a little link in the description of this video for last week's video, but I said in the video that I had heard when someone cracks a whip, that cracking whip noise that you hear is actually a small sonic boom because the speed of the tip of the whip is traveling faster than the speed of sound, but I didn't really believe it. Well, guess what? Joe L. left me an email. He sent me an email and he explained to me that yes, you actually are creating a speed faster than the speed of sound, and that's why it makes that noise. And he even gave me a link. So I'll even see if I can attach a link in this video referencing that last one about the little sonic boom that we make. So absolutely make sure you're gripping the club with the correct pressure and make sure that you have a fairly strong grip on the club. Look at last week's video for more information about that. So getting into this week, let's talk about making a better shoulder turn and increasing the length of your backswing. So number one, here's what we have to do. Number one is the most boring part, but it's super important. We just have to have good posture, all right? So I'm gonna go ahead and change angles as if I'm gonna be hitting a ball out at this wall. And here's what we gotta do, everybody. We've got to be in a neutral spine angle. So when you take a look at my shoulders right now, they're directly on top of my hips, and my spine, it's not necessarily straight, but it's in a neutral position. I need to keep this club on my tailbone as well as on the back of my head so that I can get the good feeling of bending from the hips and creating, maintaining that neutral spine position. This is super important. And so if you are setting up to the ball, bending from your back, you're making it, I would never say anything is impossible, but you're making it really, really difficult, if not impossible, to truly turn your shoulders and turn your hips. And here's the reason why. Our hips and our shoulders are connected by our spine. And rotation of the spine is what causes this turn. And you can see as I'm starting my little miniature backswing, my shoulders start and then my hips kind of follow. If I bend from my back and I kink my spine, I can't really turn my shoulders and my hips very much, so I'm going to be forced to pick up the club in my backswing. And you may see a lot of people who hit balls picking up that club like that, all right? I would hit this ball, but the dog's in the way. We'll move her in a minute, all right? So number one, let's get that posture straight, okay? And I realize that I'm doing more explaining as to why, as to how, but I think it's important as to why. So I would like for you to take your club, put it upside down in your right hand. Put that club back behind your head, and then with your left hand or your other free hand, just hold that grip right on your tailbone. Don't grip it under this way. Get that palm facing your body. And you can use either hand, okay? Lean the head back, and then we're gonna give it just a little teeny bit of knee flex, and we're gonna bend from the hips. All right, so now I can look in my monitor, you can look in your mirror, and see that you've got a nice, neutral spine position. All the bending has pretty much been from the hips, a little from the knees. All right. Then I'll let one arm hang straight down. I'm going to let that other hand meet that first hand. And we'd really like to have our hands hanging roughly straight down from our shoulders. But the big thing we want is this neutral spine angle. We've got to be able to physically turn those hips and those shoulders. All right. So now once I've got that out of the way, and I would say practice that. Maybe the rest of the day of today, spend a few minutes every couple of hours and just practice putting the club behind your back and do it in front of a mirror. Tomorrow, I'll bring this video up again and let's talk about how to learn how to turn. We're going to set up with that good that good neutral spine angle, right? And then I'm going to simulate putting my hands on the club. So I'm going to lower my back shoulder or my right shoulder because I'm right-handed. Our right hand goes on the club lower than our left, so I'm just going to kind of tilt this way a little bit. I'm going to look in the mirror, and I'm going to just turn my hips and shoulders, and I'm going to feel like, this is the big thing, I'm going to try to feel my left hip, my front hip, moving towards the target a little bit, and my shoulders moving back away from it a little bit. When you first start doing this, you'll probably do some of this. It'll be kind of weird and all that, but just stick with it. Look in the mirror and get that turn going. And you'll notice I'm not making that much of a movement. That's great, that's fine. But you'll also notice I'm able to turn those hips and shoulders. You don't see this back hip sliding backwards like this. All right? Okay? So this is another thing you can do in front of the mirror just for a day or two. Every couple of hours, spend about 5 minutes looking in the mirror and practicing that. Okay? Just get a little bit of that turn working for you. All right? So now we're going to go ahead and hit a shot using that good turn. So Cookie, you need to get out of the way, girl. Go on. Go on. Good girl. Okay. So I'll set up. I'm going to make sure I've got a little tilt this way on my spine. And I'm going to try to feel my hip move towards the target a little bit as my shoulders move back behind me a little bit. That's it. That's all I'm going to work on. Nice, easy little swing. What's happening is I'm turning my back to the target a little bit, right? And I'm just making a gentle little swing and making sure that I can finish with my hips on top of my front side. So that was not a huge swing. It wasn't a huge turn, but it was a pretty good turn. All right? Already, I'm going to be able to develop a lot more club head speed and a much more efficient motion because my shoulders are turning instead of me just getting bad posture and picking the club up like this. This, I hit it about 80 yards in the air. We don't want that. We want to be able to use the rotational ability of our body. And if you've been playing golf for a long time, I know you have habits. I totally understand that. And that's why you're going to go farther, faster, practicing this stuff somewhat even away from the practice tee, away from the golf course, just turning back like that. Okay? So we're talking right now about creating a better turn. Let's talk about increasing the length of the backswing. So I see a lot of people with golf swings like this. So watch how short my backswing is. All right, I see a lot of that little backswing. And people just can't understand why they can't get that club to travel farther, longer back away from them. And they think it's a flexibility issue. But I'm going to change angles here. Watch this now. So when I set up, by the way, my hands are right in front of my chest. When I turn those shoulders, my hands, I want to keep them in front of my chest. And as far as turning goes, I get a little bit of momentum going, and I can get a really good looking backswing up here. My hands are back away from my body. Looks like this. Okay? So where are we going wrong? Watch this again. If I pull my hands back behind me like so, they're no longer in front of my chest. And what happens is my range of motion of this lead shoulder gets limited a lot. Okay? So I want you to make sure to keep those hands more in front of the buttons on your shirt, and then you're going to have a lot more flexibility here to increase the length of that backswing. All right? So in summary, 1, work on that great posture. 2, practice in the mirror, a little tilt this way, and turning your shoulders and your hips. And 3, in your backswing, practice looking at where your hands are. Don't get them stuck behind you here. Keep them out in front of your chest right there. Practice those things over the course of a few days. Just practice them, a few minutes every couple of hours, and in a little while it's going to become habitual. And then you're going to have a better, who cares how the golf swing looks, but it will look better, but it's also going to help you hit the ball a lot longer and a lot straighter. little draw too. So golf is a whole lot more fun when you're hitting it solid, when you're getting off the tee in the fairway, fairly long. Work on these things. Next week we'll come with another video with a little more help to help seniors with their distance.